Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Nay? All right, motion carries. The adoption of the minutes of August 13th, 2025 have been approved. Moving on to community updates. Mr. Wellman.
Yeah, this is just we put this up at the front of the agenda here instead of leaving it for the end. Just so we can make sure everybody could participate. Just wanted to invite anyone on the committee to share any news about development in their community and let everybody know what's happening, if anything. So just open the floor for a discussion.
Awesome. Well, David, I'll kick it off. Definitely, we've been very appreciative of the IEDC. We were awarded $15 million from the IEDC to help support the development of our downtown. Our development area includes the Gary Metro Transit Development District. We've been able to work with our teams developing a comprehensive plan as well as our downtown master plan to be able to convey how the city of Gary would like to kickstart catalytic development efforts to be able to reinvigorate its downtown. We've worked very closely with MKSK as well. So we appreciate those efforts in effort to get us to the finish line and be able to have the IDC realize our vision and be awarded $5 million for vertical development support, $5 million for the adaptive reuse of the Hudson Campbell Fitness Center, high quality of life center that we'd like to provide as an amenity to the downtown core, and $5 million of additional blight elimination for some large commercial structures that we still have in downtown Gary. That's in addition to the $12 million that we have received to be able to execute blight removal and remediation with the support of the RDA and moving forward with our match with Hard Rock in the city of Gary to be able to make change, clearing up the remainder of the blight so we can encourage more investment. And the vertical development support from the IDC will definitely help us tremendously. So very appreciative of that for Gary. Open to any other updates from any other communities.
Town of Beverly Shores and Pines met with RDA folks, and we are looking for what's next. And so I think we're going to have another meeting with INDOT and maybe NICD and others, just trying to get all the stakeholders together. So we're making progress.
Awesome. Congratulations. Beverly Shores. Okay, Tammy, go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know that I did get a copy of the Town of Pines comprehensive plan. Unfortunately, they didn't have it digital, so I only have it on paper.
Got it. Thank you, Tammy. I take it that comprehensive plan is needed to help support your transit development district.
Yes, David had asked if we could get that. It said that would be very helppful.
Yes, we do have a digital copy. We did dig that up, so we're good there. But thank you very much, Tammy. We would do appreciate your effort there.
No problem.
Thank you, Tammy. Any other community would like to give an update? Great. All right, David. Well, I guess we can move on to the RDA update on our rail project for the Westlake Corridor and any cleanup for the Westlake expansion.
Sure, no problem. Just in case anybody's forgotten where the rail lines are, here we are. We have both the double track and ongoing Westlake projects here. And just to kind of give us a quick rundown. On the Westlake Corridor, again, design is about 98% complete, and work continues here. The Main Street underpass in Munster Dyer has been paved. The pedestrian bridge has been installed. The parking lot's been paved there, so we're in good shape. They continue to work on getting the catenary system completed, and that's continuing. The installation of new ties and rail fasteners to meet the electrical isolation requirements in the rails is largely complete south of the Hammond Gateway Station now, and that work was scheduled to be completed by roughly about now. They did fire up the system to test things, and of course, two of the electric transformers used to power the trains immediately blew out. And so those have been removed and shipped back to the manufacturer's facility for investigation and may need to be replaced. Unfortunately, that could lead to some further delays in getting things opened up. They may be delayed until late January or early February, according to the last update given to the NICTE board. But they continue to work with the contractor to try to find ways to keep the project moving along, minimize delays, and so we keep going, and there may be a little bit of a 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get to the finish line here eventually. So I'll stop there, and if there are any questions. Okay, and then over to Double Track. Again, this is mostly complete. Most of the contracts, as you can see, are fully closed out. The only one that remains open is the named Double Track 1 contract, and that's in the process of being closed out, and that closeout is projected to be complete next month. They're operating in full Double Track mode, going through some last punch list items at 11th Street Station in the Michigan City Garage, and they continue to coordinate with or NICTE continues to coordinate with, of course, us, with the FTA, with Michigan City, and developers regarding ongoing development around the train station in Michigan City. So pause there for any questions. All right, and that's where we are on the rail. And
Thank you,
that will-
David.
Sure, that'll take us over to boundaries. I believe Aaron is going to handle this.
All right, all. Good to be with you today. So I'm going to provide a recap on the work that we've been doing to support the Northwest Indiana communities with the boundaries, both those that have been established recently, as well as those that have been established for a while. And I apologize for the red marks on the screen. Dave Wellman, is there a way to remove those? If not, we'll just keep moving.
There may be. I'm working off my iPad here, so I don't want to lose the call.
Got
So
it.
we just have to kind of stick with it for right now. Sorry about
That's
that.
okay. So just a high level overview here. So there is quite a bit of activity occurring within the TDD boundaries. I think you all have seen some of the press of some of the recent developments that have been announced. There's others that are occurring that the local units are working with various developers on that will likely be announced in the future. That all said, so we have a total of 11 established TDD boundaries. Our friends at Beverly Shores and Pines representing the newest. As we move forward, we still have a couple that are eligible to be drawn: South Bend Airport, Valparaiso Downtown. And we're beginning to kind of get to a point where we need to get the MOAs completed. And I know AJ will talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the presentation. That's going to be a major focus of ours early next year. And we're beginning to receive requests to have us explore expansion of some of the TDD boundaries. So that's a conversation that we're beginning with several communities, and we'll be continued to assist in that fashion, tied to the work that's occurring in the established boundaries, as well as where those may be expanded in the future as it makes sense. And all of those things will kind of be tied together in that MOA as well. Next slide, please. So one of the things that, and AJ will talk about it in a little bit more detail, we've established these boundaries, and we've been working incrementally with the communities to offer support. As we get a little bit further on in the slide deck, I will offer a few shout outs. There are communities that are being really proactive about taking the grant funded TOD plans that were prepared a few years ago, reviewing those against other plans that they've done in their communities, in some cases utilizing those as well as other plans that have been completed since to update comprehensive planning as well as zoning in order to enable TOD development. And this is one of the big things that coming out of that grant funded process, we really we're working with communities to do, and we want to continue to work with the communities that have not adopted those to provide assistance to get them to a point where they feel comfortable bringing those forward, so that that can be a major enabling step for economic development and TOD development. The other thing I'll mention here is that, you know, this also could be used, and I know that there's folks from NERC here to help with, you know, getting projects into the TIP and to start thinking about applying for grant dollars. The RDA has been active in working with several of the local units and trying to get some grants to support TOD. This also could be used for conversations with developers and investors. I know a lot of communities are doing that already, but we want to emphasize that the RDA is available to provide that assistance. This is also tied to the RDA's land development entity, which AJ will talk about a little later in the presentation. And really, one of the major purposes of that land development entity is to work to encourage and in some cases provide support in getting TOD development, especially in those hard to develop areas. We mentioned grants. The RDA has been working with the local units and has actually applied for several federal grants this year. We hope to know here before the end of the year if we receive any of those dollars. But that is a space that the RDA has been active in trying to seek additional dollars from the federal government to allow for additional sources of dollars for enabling steps around some of these TOD projects, as well as securing development in some of these areas. Next slide, please. So we're going to go through some of the activity in each of the communities. So specific to the Westlake Corridor, the RDA over the past year has been working really closely with the City of Hammond, continues to work closely with the City of Hammond. You can see some of the things that we've been up to over the past year, really all around supporting Hammond getting the TOD development that they want within their TDD boundary. We continue to work with the City of Hammond. Also want to celebrate the Bank Calumet project, which was recently completed. Next slide, please. Munster, and Dyer, there continues to be significant interest in TOD development in those communities, and similar to Hammond, the RDA has been offering support on the technical side as the communities are talking with these developers, and in some cases also looking at other areas that maybe weren't included within the grant funded TOD study, thinking about, for instance, the Sheffield Avenue corridor and how that could be a complete street in order to support TOD development within the TDD boundary in that area. Next slide. East Chicago, the RDA has been meeting with the City of East Chicago. We know that they have a lot of ideas for investments that they'd like to see, as well as opportunities to capture a significant workforce within their TDD boundary. Also working with them to evaluate a potential expansion. Gary, Chris, I'll give your team a shout out. And I know you already mentioned this, but the recent adoption of your new comprehensive plan, as well as the work that you've done in the downtown area with Notre Dame and the zoning code updates are huge. There's a lot of work happening in Gary, Chris, as you said, and the RDA is continuing to work with the city to try to help on a technical side to support that. And so there's a lot of activity in the city of Gary, in the downtown area, and especially within the TOD kind of sphere today. The RDA is also assisting in the Gary Miller area. Next slide. Portage, Ogden Dunes. There's a recent news article, I think it came out October 5th. So Portage is working on their new comprehensive plan as well. So these are the kinds of things that we want to make sure the TOD studies that were done several years ago, which have pretty significant recommendations for the types of things that could be included in a comprehensive plan to enable TOD development. So we want to give the city of Portage a shout out on that work, and the RDA is continuing to be of assistance to that community. Next slide. Dune Park, I know Michael's on the call here. The RDA, as part of the strategic plan, is really focused on designating US 12. We're working through the steps to designate US 12 as a scenic byway. And we're continuing to work with the town of Porter on TOD assistance in the TDD area. Next slide. Beverly Shores and Pines. So this is the new boundary that's been established. We've met with both communities several times. The linchpin in getting TOD development here is the sewer from Michigan City. And so that's a piece of the puzzle that we're working through now, as well as beginning to work on now that we have that boundary established. That was kind of a key piece there. And then also similar to town of Porter, you know, this would be in the area where the US 12 scenic byway could be envisioned. And then lastly, Michigan City. Again, the scenic byway opportunity could be part of the story there as well. We know there's a number of TOD projects underway in downtown Michigan City. You all have probably seen the press about the one right at the 11th Street Station, as well as SOLA, and we're continuing to meet to be of service to that community. I think I'm turning it over to Courtney now.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Cool. Yeah, so I am the controller for the RDA. My name is Courtney Kovachkov. Last time we presented what was the balance in all the different TDD accounts. Since that time, we have not collected a new increment. Our next distribution is expected to be collected in late December. And just as a reminder, we get 3 distributions a year. For property tax, we'll get those in June and late December. Local income tax, that increment distribution will be in March. So looking to have our next increment update in early 2026. On the RDA front, we are finalizing creating the different TDD bank accounts, and those are through Centeer and Horizon Bank. And yeah, I mean, if any of the communities have questions, please feel free to reach out to any of our team, or we'll connect with Policy Analytics and try to get you the answers that you want, or the answers.
Thank you, Courtney, and also thank you, Aaron. I guess before we hop on to the 2026 outlook, were there any questions from any of the committee members about anything that we've discussed thus far about the TDD updates and our increment balances? Okay, all right. So we'll move on to the 2026 outlook. AJ, is that you?
It is. Thanks, Chris.
Awesome. No problem.
All right. Dave, can you go ahead and move it to the next slide? All right. Last one, sorry. All right, thanks. So just by way of reintroducing myself, AJ Bittner, Director of Economic Development here for the Northwest Indiana RDA. Today I'm going to kind of go over a high-level overview, specifically talking about the land development entity as it relates to the 2025 RDA's Comprehensive Strategic Plan, but in a narrow view of looking at it, how it could potentially impact the TDDs, and discussing some of the ongoing efforts both by the communities, the RDA, the state, and the private sector for that matter, because ultimately what we're trying to determine and assist with and just coordinate on really are the development in and around these train stations in the capacity and the way that makes sense for all of the individual communities, because we know that along both the double track as well as the Westlake corridors, every community has a different flavor of opportunity for development or infill, and every community has a different vision for how they'd like that to transpire. So in our conversations, we're always cognizant of that and looking at, opportunities that may exist in, one community, or, looking at how they want to, kind of prioritize that development and what kind of stumbling blocks may be there, so that both when we're looking at it from an RDA perspective, but also looking at communities and saying hey, what are underlying TIF revenues may you have, what other kind of tools do you have in your toolbox, where do we see gaps that perhaps are not able to be closed in the traditional ways, in what ways can we help kind of overcome those hurdles, either collaboratively or kind of acting as a conduit to have conversations with either federal agencies or state agencies to ensure that we're kind of leaving no stone unturned to ensure that the communities can actualize what they're hoping to in making these comprehensive plans into reality. So with that, wanted to give a brief overview about the land development entity. Earlier this year, the RDA held a public hearing formalizing the adoption of it and committing $5 million of initial investment. That was really the first steps. What we've been doing since then is analyzing opportunities and also going through the regulatory legal framework of setting up the organization itself, so that in the first half of 2026, that we can move forward and have a clear, legal framework as well as organizational and administrative framework, so that we can share it directly with the communities, both from a potential collaboration standpoint with local redevelopment commissions, or CDCs or nonprofits for that matter, but also in looking at the private sector and seeing what some of those stumbling blocks are, maybe in land assemblage, land acquisition, brownfield remediation, things of that nature. We've had conversations with folks, both in kind of what I'd say is a small scale of kind of a corner lot in a downtown that just has some legacy environmental issues that may be a quarter of an acre. Whereas, we've had larger conversations, we're talking larger, 40 plus acre sites where there's, a need for more of kind of a team lift in order to move something, past the kind of, when you drive by, it's like, hey, why is nothing happening on the site? It's a really good site. There may be issues with land ownership. There may be issues with chain of title or unknown kind of environmental concerns, and no one's quite sure kind of how to put together the suite of action steps to move it forward. So in some ways, the LDE is both a transactional kind of organization, but also in a capacity building as well as technical assistance from that matter, because we've seen in our conversations with communities and developers the issues that kind of pop up from time to time, and like we said, each one is different. We know some of the land speculation that occurs here in Lake County and how it can be a stumbling block to development, and also from a timeliness standpoint. So looking at it both from kind of a short-term standpoint as well as kind of a longer-term standpoint of how collaboratively we can work with the communities and the private sector, so as to kind of move past some of the issues that have plagued the region over the course of the last 20 years. Dave, next slide, please. Next slide. Sorry. There we go. So with all that being said, with the TDD itself, we anticipate having the regulatory framework in Q1 completed to share the board seated, as well as kind of some initial kind of ideas of first projects. But what we really want to do in the meantime, and the communities on this call are an important component of it, is understanding where those first projects may be, both kind of short and also kind of understanding what the long-term projects are. As we assembled that, we're going to be reaching out to the communities individually, just kind of get a sense of where does it make sense. Some communities may only have a couple properties, some have copious amounts of parcels that they've acquired over the year, and it's kind of one of those. This is not meant to take the place of any local redevelopment commission. This is not meant to step on anyone's toes. It's meant to augment the efforts that are already underway and to work in unison rather in a silo, in that way. And sometimes there may be an issue where capital is scarce up front. However, via the increment that will be generated after the fact, there's going to be plenty, at that point. So we're looking at various kind of structures as it relates to, these partnerships to understand kind of on a case by case basis rather than doing kind of a blanket assumption on how we're going to approach kind of our partnerships, both with the public as well as the private sector. And this ties back into the overall TDDs because, as Aaron alluded to, a lot of communities have, started their comprehensive planning updates. But we all know ultimately the plans are only as good as the policies that are enacted locally through zoning updates, building code, code enforcement, things of that nature. And where we have seen, kind of, and, received feedback on of communities, kind of in some ways asking like, where do we start or how do we get from, point B through point Y rather than A through Z? There's a ton of opportunity to, kind of partner, in those regards. And that's where the RDA, through the TDD steering committee is hoping to better kind of understand the individualized communities, needs so that we can right size our programs and be responsive to what the communities need. We don't want to make assumptions about what communities need or want. We want to truly kind of in a collaborative sense on the same side of the table work through, kind of, or be part of any of these development processes that the communities, kind of see fit. Like once again, like all the communities are going to be a little bit different. In that, sense, one of the things that we anticipate as part of this overall effort is, working through kind of some of this, development stress tests. If a community wants, 6-story vertical development, is your zoning code, conducive to allowing that by right, if that's something that you want there? Or if you want townhome development, what does your zoning code say about it? What are you doing with your, both with your kind of street design as well as your fee structures and how you're, shepherding development through the process, especially for development that the communities want to see and have, through their comprehensive plan, said like, this is what we want in these locations. And it's not just strictly in the TDDs themselves. It is, how does that overall development plan interplay with the community's true kind of development opportunities, as well as what they foresee in the future. Because this all ties into not just kind of a land use policy, but also ultimately into the financial kind of health and resiliency of these communities. So when you're looking at, the choice between single family, duplexes or townhomes or commercial or even industrial for that matter, how does that impact the bottom line and the fiscal analysis for the community? And what is that cost benefit analysis? These are really important parts of kind of the overall land use, policy that has been taken into consideration in the TDD plans that we, love to continue kind of having those conversations about what that means, not just within the TDD, but also in the community, so that everyone can kind of chart their, kind of path forward from there, in a strategic fashion. And along that line, what we'll also be asking, especially as we're looking at, moving on to expansion of TDD districts themselves, of getting some of these foundational things done, finalizing MOAs. And, from a point of clarification, on the MOAs, there's what we envision will be a blanket MOA for the district itself, and then a sub amendment that deals directly with each particular development or each use of the increment itself, so as to not get so bogged down in the details of the MOA of thinking about every single possible permutation. We realize that things change in 3 years and 5 years and 10 years for that matter. These things sunset in 2045, and when we're talking about potential large bond finance issues or just using increment that is built up via the bank within each individual district, typically we generally know what's allowed by state law. However, each community envisions and has a different policy of how they'd like to see that increment used within the district itself. And each community has different sensitivity. So just kind of wanted to put that out there as the MOAs will be reapproaching that so as to kind of get the initial blanket one completed and then lay out a process for kind of on an individualized project basis, so as to not have to get so deep in the weeds that everyone just kind of pulls their hair out trying to figure out to properly paper these things. So just wanted to kind of give that brief update. And that's, kind of primarily, what we envision is kind of the first part of 2026. And what both Aaron and Dave have alluded to, we foresee the TDD steering committee, really being a clearinghouse for kind of these conversations and the direct kind of input point. Obviously, anytime you guys have any questions, pick up the phone, call me, text me, email me, whatever is the most convenient of looking through, development opportunities, or even if it's not directly to TOD or TDD itself. We're happy to be kind of a resource and a sounding board in an official or unofficial capacity, kind of in those matters. We want to make sure that the communities know that, the RDA is on their side of the table when it comes to overall development and ensuring that, you're able to, move those projects forward and figure out kind of whatever, financing or creative ways to ensure that those things do happen, and also offer, some, analysis as far as what we foresee as, kind of pitfalls or best practices or other ways of, looking at, financing development. We want to put all those options on the table for a community to, kind of understand kind of what each one of those scenarios brings and what are the pluses and minuses of those, so that you can take it to your elected officials and make, what ultimately is the, best fiscal decision for the community itself. So with the TDD steering committee, having that, talking about best practices, talking about the development, happening within each one of those communities, but just to be a sounding board for each other and be a convening place, so that, if Gary puts together an ordinance, or if, Pines puts together an ordinance, it can be shared amongst the group and say kind of like, hey, here's what's worked, here's what hasn't worked, and here's some, unforeseen, kind of consequences, and here's some tweaks that we're looking. So as to be able to, because of this line, share those kind of victories and, have it be, kind of a more cumulative economic development fact rather than a zero-sum game in some cases, which has, been done in the past. So, that's, kind of the long and the short of it. Happy to answering any kind of questions and, have a conversation. But, to my point, we'll be following up with the communities individually to kind of work through these various things so that, to ensure that the input that we've received thus far, that we're still tracking the right direction as we kind of update, some of our proposals for tools in the toolbox, and, what we foresee as kind of opportunities within the TDDs themselves.
Hey, AJ, I have a question for you. For the $5 million that's seeded to the LDE, is it the first come, first serve basis? As far as the community need, like, so for example.
No, what we'll be doing is analyzing the projects on kind of a, kind of ranked order. It's it's going to be a strategic deployment, because what we anticipate with the $5 million is seed funds that ultimately are going to be attributed to our ability to pursue other grant opportunities, and showing the RDA's commitment to the LDE itself. So it's not necessarily a first come, first serve. It's going to be a strategic deployment of those resources to ensure the long-term viability of the LDE itself, as well as the kind of, how it folds into the overall larger kind of strategic, plan and vision.
Got it. Any other questions from any of the committee members?
All right. Well, thanks.
Thank you, AJ. Right. Let's see. Next on the agenda, I think we had some housekeeping. I don't know, David, if you wanted
Yes.
to elaborate.
Yeah, I'll happily take over just to pop here. Just a few housekeeping notes to finish up today. Again, in their infinite wisdom, the General Assembly has decreed that the membership on this committee is expires annually. So I will be over the next few weeks sending out appointment and reappointment letters to all your appointing authorities. I'll try to copy all the members on that, but just be aware that if you want to continue on with the with the committee to make sure that your mayor or town manager or city council or whoever should be whoever's responsible for nominating you to this august body is aware of that and gets that into us before we start our meetings in 2026. Also, as AJ alluded to, we will be sending out a survey to all members trying to identify key items that we should be looking to address in 2026. Make sure that we get input from everybody. So look for that coming out before the end of the month here, hopefully, to come around to you as well. Of course, we have looking ahead toward 2026 in our meeting calendar. These will be the dates if we keep our normal second Wednesday of every month type schedule here, except for the November meeting, which will fall on Veterans Day in 2026. So I bumped that to Thursday. If any of these dates don't work for people, let me know, and we'll try to accommodate everyone and make sure everybody can be available. One thing I would mention on the subject of meetings is that, again, as AJ mentioned, we want to help to build this group into a more active and collaborative body. And to that end, we want to hold at least one of these meetings in person this year. Also, I think when we send out the survey, we'll ask what everybody's preference would be, which meeting to hold in person, or whether we should hold more than one meeting in person. So that will also be included as well. And finally, just a reminder that our first meeting of next year in February, we will be required to elect a new chairperson. Thank you very much for your service, Mr. Harris. We appreciate that. And as AJ has reminded me earlier this year, that technically, according to the letter of the law, the chair of the committee is not supposed to be someone from a community that has a seat on the board of directors of the RDA. So not supposed to be someone from Gary, Hammond, or East Chicago. That was put in there to assure that the body would allow for representation from some of the smaller communities who aren't normally members of the RDA. So with that in mind, if anybody would like to put their name in nomination come next February, we'd certainly appreciate that. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Chris.
Thank you, David. All right. I know we've had an opportunity for community updates, but if there are any additional questions or comments from any of the committee members, feel free to unmute yourself, make any statement or any question, any clarifications you may need from today's meeting. The floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Hi, Chris. This is Tim Corcoran from South Bend. I'm just curious, will the presentation that Aaron provided at the beginning, is that something that will be sent around?
Yeah, I can do that. No problem, Tim.
Thank you, David.
Great. Thank you, Tim, for the question. Anyone else? All right. Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to the last item, which is making a motion for adjournment.
Jeff Benson moves, we adjourn.
Awesome. All right. Properly moved by Mr. Benson. And second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Berry. All right. We appreciate everyone's time. Happy holidays. It's hard to believe that we're already here. So definitely appreciated serving as chair on the committee, and happy holidays to everyone, and hope everyone is safe and you enjoy your time, and let's go Northwest Indiana.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Bye-bye.
You
holidays.
too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.